Hello there, welcome to episode 82 of Never Mind the Bullens. I'm Mike Peters, this is your bite-sized Everton podcast and vodcast. And we will try and keep it bite-sized, but hey, there's a lot going on. He's gone. I was going to record this yesterday evening, but I decided that a better way to spend my evening was at the side of a road with a broken down camper van. Brilliant. And I thought best to wait as well, because obviously the rumours that were emanating from Goodison in the aftermath of that desperately poor defeat at Norwich, a team that hasn't won since November, which is almost as long as it is since we've won a game, were that, you know, Rafa Benitez was for the chop, and so it has come to pass. You know, there was no confirmation last night. They were rumoured that there could be. I'm sure, like most Evertonians, I was checking this morning. I actually heard about it as I record this, about 3 hours ago. From an ex-Everton player who I happened to be with at the time. I won't mention his name. But, you know, I'm thinking, well, I haven't heard any official confirmation, but then it has just broken. And the statement, and it's quite funny the way these things work themselves out, isn't it, really? Because I was going to discuss the dreadfully terse statement that was on the website to do with Luca Dean and his departure, which I thought was absolutely shameful. The way that a guy that's given his all for the club, although I hear rumours that obviously he was being a bit mischievous behind the scenes, and obviously we know that he had fallen out with Benitez, but obviously he was also causing problems with other players in terms of loading bullets for others to fire, let's put it that way. And I thought the guy that's actually played pretty well for us and played 127 games deserved more as a departure than he got. Obviously put a very nice Instagram post about his time at Everton, and I think when he comes back next Saturday, the Villa game, he will get a very good reception, as most ex-players do. But the statement that's from the club is even more terse than the one that Luca Dean got. Hardly surprising, and you can see the sort of the Schadenfreude, or whatever the Spanish word for that is, that's doing the rounds. Dan Donachie being one of the obviously people that has been a victim to a degree of Rafa Benitez, has fallen by the wayside, and you know that he's sort of said, well, there you go, you treat people that way, then that's what's going to happen to you. You can go and have a look at the wording of his tweet for yourself. But this isn't to do with the fact that Rafa Benitez has got any previous associations with Liverpool. That's probably giving him a shorter line of credit. I'll get that. But the fundamental issue, the reason that he's got sacked, is because of, firstly, the results. 1 win in 13 matches is simply unacceptable, and the stats there, the only two seasons that are worse at this point, after 19 games, were 1997-98 and 93-4, both of which resulted in two of the most famous games that ever have been played at Goodison Park, the games against Wimbledon and Coventry, where we had to get results to stay up. If that doesn't say where we're at the minute, then nothing does. I mean, the manner of the defeat yesterday was dreadful. The players clearly not playing for him, not buying into what he's doing, and if you have lost the players and the supporters, then you're up a creek without an instrument, and that's it. Allied to that, his obviously attitude towards the players has then disconnected himself from his playing staff. And then, obviously, some of the things that he said and the tactics have disconnected him from the supporters completely. Not that the connection there was tenuous at best, but at least you did. I mean, I'm going to have to compare him, I'm afraid, with some of the worst managers that we've ever had, and certainly in recent memory. You know, we're talking about Sam Allardyce in terms of a man that just was so beyond the off the charts arrogant that he didn't give a toss about what anybody else thought apart from himself, and had made no attempt to hide his disdain for the fan base or his complete apathy towards the club. And that's done for him. It did for Ronald Koeman as well, in terms of not really being interested in the club, just seeing it as a project. And that's not what Evertonians want from a manager. And so whoever is appointed next, whoever's next into that hot seat, is going to have to really buy into that. That's why Roberto Martinez, who, much to my absolute astonishment, is being linked with the job again. Sorry, no, don't want him back. Absolutely not. And if Farmashire is seriously considering that, then I'm sorry. Your time's done, mate. You're off. But whoever is appointed, And I really don't think that anybody's going to be appointed before the end of the season. I think we have to have some semblance of stability now. I mean, I was saying on this podcast, and I've said it, that actually getting rid of him probably wasn't the right thing to do. We had to give time had to be given because we've had so much instability. That obviously that was the only reason to keep him, even though I wasn't happy with the results, like the same as anybody else. Wasn't happy with the performances, wasn't happy with the tactics, but simply keeping somebody because you've had so much instability before is not a good enough reason to create more insecurity and instability now. So if Duncan Ferguson, I think, is the only option in terms of knows the players, and I will get to them because they are absolutely in no way blameless off this. They're not getting off the hook. That he's the only one that can come in who knows it, can hit the ground running and can kind of generate a reaction, I hope, as he did when he took over after Marco Silva was dismissed. And I would give him it for a longer period of time until such time as we can get the person that we want. And it absolutely has to be the right person with the correct structure within the club in place. So it's been one of the most shambolic episodes in Everton's recent history, from not only from a playing point of view, from a governance point of view as well, because that is where all of this instability, the last 6 months has been an object lesson in how not to run a business, and certainly how not to run a football club. In terms of, if you put a structure in place and you have bought into that idea that we will have a director of football who will be responsible for recruitment, we're going to have the correct team in personnel, then you bring in a man who doesn't get on with the director of football. You have an owner that's trying to sign players. You have a director of football that wants to sign players and a manager that wants to sign players. And then that's clearly never going to work because you've got three, everybody's pulling in different directions and has their own ideas about what should happen. The board, and by the board I mean Farhad Moshiri, because ultimately he's the top dog in all this, has backed Rafa Benitez by sacking Marcel Brands, allowing him to get rid of Dan Donachie, and has said, right, and then has backed him in the transfer market now. And that is a massive caveat because Rafa Benitez has come in and had to firefight at the end of a particularly bad period of Everton governance over the last 5 years. And so I do have a scintilla of sympathy for him because he's been told 3 years, in the same way that David Moyes was, I suppose, at Manchester United when he left us to go there, that he was told, right, you're going to have 6 years, here's your contract, you're going to have to rebuild this team, blah, blah, blah. Slightly different circumstances, obviously, but in terms of, right, hang on, you're not going to have any money to spend now because of FFP and because of our profligacy in the transfer market prior to this, over the previous few years. But, we'll support you when the time is right, and we can do, because the money is there. That's been proven straight away because we signed Mikalenko and signed Nathan Patterson. And that's peak Everton in terms of allowing a manager to spend £25 million on players, sell one of our most popular players at the same time, sign a player, the Anwar El Ghazi deal, in terms of signing him, which are rumours, I mean, it's the internet, isn't it? Rumours abound that he actually was a Farhad Moshiri signing, but Rafa Benitez didn't want him, and it's only because Kia Jarabchin was the power behind this and has got a personal relationship with Moshiri that convinced us to sign El Ghazi. If you're going over the manager's head again, having backed him and said, right, you're the man, you're going to lead this club forward, you are the fella that I am, backing, you're my horse in this instance, that I'm going to let you do what you want and build the team, build the squad that you want, and then you completely ignore that almost instantaneously and start signing players that he doesn't want. Now, as for regards Anwar El Ghazi, I actually think he's a decent player. He'll offer extra competition for places when we're struggling to score goals. If he's going to add extra goals and certainly gives us extra options off the bench, then fine. If he can play as a number 10 or as he can play as a as a winger, we've got extra options. Vandross Townsend or Damari Gray gets injured or Anthony Gordon, then it means we don't have to rely on my bête noire. So that is a complete strategic failure of governance, that you've done that and you have then, within a matter of weeks of getting rid of Marcel Brands in the wake of the derby, you've then sacked the manager as well. It's completely unmitigated failure. Absolutely and total failure. And you look at his track record now, Moshiri up to now has got pretty much a free pass because obviously he's put money in, and we've been prepared to give him the time and the benefit of the doubt, and that anybody can get an appointment wrong. But you have to look at it. Ronald Koeman didn't really work. Marco Silva didn't really work. Sam Allardyce should never have been appointed in the first place, despite what he and his lieutenants continue to say about, Everton was 16th and in danger of relegation. It's not true. We weren't going to get relegated, and we weren't 16th when he was appointed. We were 13th. Okay, facts are important. Carlo Ancelotti, qualified success, but obviously then leaves. Then Benitez, failure. So his track record for appointing managers, bad. His track record for the players that he has gone over directors of football to sign and all that, bad. So can't argue with the stadium. Fair enough. Okay, so that's one. That's a massive thing, and obviously wants to take the club forward from a business point of view. But in terms of a football management, football governance point of view, it's been a complete failure. So the best thing to do is, this season's a write-off. Certainly from the league campaign. Yeah, we're still in the cup. Okay, who knows? We could end the drought and finally win something. Hope springs eternal, doesn't it? We're Evertonians. But I genuinely think we need to wait and have a strategic and sensible review of the football operation of the club, and say, right, hang on, what is it that we're trying to do? Let's put in place a 5-year plan to try and get ourselves in that. I thought that plan was supposedly there, but it's been a complete failure. So there needs to be, throw it all out, blank piece of paper, clear the board. Let's start. I mean, as in the whiteboard. I'm using a metaphor rather than the actual board itself. Although I'm sure some people would want to do that as well. But to enable us to think, right, let's not make any knee-jerk reactions. Let's do something sensible, and let's try and put in place a plan to be able to drive the club forward for the next 5 years. Now, the manager might change in that time. Okay, whoever the next person appointed is, they may not last the distance. But there's got to be say, right, this is the way we want to go about this. This is the type of football we want to play. These are the type of players that we want. Age, not necessarily a factor, but overall, there's always exceptions. But this is what we're trying to do. Now, we sort of had that. And then this is the thing. Had Marcel Brands stayed and Benitez gone now, we might be in a very different position. But we're starting from scratch again. So do we now just go back to having a manager with a chief scouting and supported by his coaches and his backroom staff, who is ultimately the person that is responsible for saying, right, I want this player. I want to go into Farbershire. This is the type of player I want. Go and find me 3 of them, and then we'll pick one. Yeah, get me scouting to do that. Right, this is what we're prepared to pay. This is the budget. That's what we did. It worked quite well with David Moyes and Bill Kenwright. Why can't it work again? With obviously budgets put in place and FFP considerations taken into account as well. I think with Rafa Benitez, Evertonians did give him time. I think the vast majority were prepared to give him a chance, whatever their reservations might be. Yes, he was probably on a shorter line of credit than other managers, but that again is, and that is obviously has to do with his previous appointment, but also it's also to do with the fact that obviously a lot of people didn't think he was the right appointment, irrespective of his previous affiliations. So the form of getting 9 points out of 45 is just not good enough. 1 win in 13 is not good enough. And not looking like winning most of those games and even having a chance, and conceding goals the way we have, that we're going behind our last 9 consecutive matches, that's a recipe for disaster. And yeah, okay, there's been injuries, yeah, okay, fine, but that's the problem. Now, I said I would turn to the players, and I will, because some of them should be utterly ashamed of themselves. Players that are simply not good enough or not trying. And who have now, a few of them have been here under a number of managers. Obviously we've gone through a lot of managers in a relatively short space of time, so that's a sort of a little asterisk to put. Well, actually, it might have been here that long, but they've gone through a lot of managers. There's been a lot of change, and I get that, but some of them just simply have not warranted the opportunities they've been given, and there have been people who have warranted opportunities that have not been given. So that, again, isn't a failure of the management, but the players simply aren't doing it. Now, as a manager, you can jump up and down and train them as much as you want, but if they don't go out on the field on a Saturday or a Sunday and perform and do what you've trained them to do all week as professional athletes, something's wrong there with them. So they, again, need to look at themselves and say, right, what part, and say, actually, we're culpable in this as well. And they are. There are players like Michael Keane, experienced players, who just simply not stepped up to the plate when needed. Who should be at a point now where they're saying, and I'm picking on him specifically, but saying, I should be leading this team, and saying I can be the lead, I can be the captain, I can be driving us forward. And he's just not done that. They've retreated into their shells, so many of them, and not performed. And obviously they're nervous, you can tell that, you can see it the way they're playing, but equally the mentality of a lot of them is that as soon as the chips are down, that's it, they've had it. As soon as the heads fall, there's no one to just shoulders back, chests out, and say, right lads, come on, we need to fight here. And that is what needs to be instilled in them rapidly. Now, as I said, the only person that can really do that, I think, is Duncan Ferguson. I mean, seeing people, other people linked with it. Frank Lampard, okay, fine, but I just don't think he is the person that we need right at this particular moment. Not writing him off as a candidate at all. Wayne Rooney, that's a nonsense appointment, because I think while he's doing a decent job with Derby under incredibly tough circumstances, he has no way got the experience as yet to manage Everton Football Club. He may well do in years to come, but right now he doesn't. That's the top and bottom of it, yeah? The rumour that seems to be doing the rounds is going to be Duncan Ferguson and Leighton Baines for a while. Fine. Because if Duncan has learnt nothing from watching the failures of all of the management teams that he has been part of. Now, and he has to take some element of responsibility in that, because he's been part of it. To what extent? We'll never know. But if he's learnt nothing other than that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, I know therefore what will work, trying to sort of, take some positives from these previous regimes that have been complete failures, then we're never going to get anywhere, are we? So I think he's the only person that will reconnect the management of the club with the fans. He has to be that bridge, even if it's only for 6 months, and eventually somebody else does come in. But I think he has earned the opportunity. He's the type of character that we need. He understands the players. The fans will inevitably get behind him, no question about that, and will always support the players, as they did yesterday. They just didn't support the manager. So, I don't necessarily agree I don't agree at all with people coming on the pitch and trying to remonstrate, but that just does speak to the frustration that we've had over the last couple of months, and yeah, so it has to. There has to be a massive change. Everybody within the club, the hierarchy of the club, has to look at themselves, look the long hard look in the mirror, and say, "What have I done? What has my failure in this been?" Because it has been a failure. What can I do to improve the club and my own situation here, and try and get us out of this mess that we have found ourselves in? And that's the only way forward. So it's over to the hierarchy of the club. What this does for us in terms of the January transfer window, signing players, who on earth knows? Sign 3 players. We need more. Will it allow Duncan be prepared to say, right, give the likes of Lewis Dobbin and Ellis Sims more of a go if he is the man that's going to take over temporarily? And you certainly imagine at the very least he'll be in charge of the Villa game on Saturday. Who knows? But it's a colossal mess. But ultimately, getting rid of Rafa Benitez is only one part of it. That's not a panacea to everything. That's not going to fix everything in the club overnight. It's just not a magic wand at all. There has to be huge seismic changes in the way that the club is run. And hopefully I have filled in or filled the need that Guillaume Balaguer has been asking for, because he's been done a Twitter thread and that he's doing a football podcast about Everton with engaging, sensible and long-suffering fans. Well, I think I'm long-suffering, like we all are. Sensible and engaging, well, I'll let you make your own mind up on that. But his Twitter thread saying that he couldn't fix all the problems in 5 months. I mean, he is an advocate for Rafa Benitez. He's basically a spokesman, isn't he? And I completely get that. And that's why I have a bit of sympathy. He's been expected to fix everything that's an issue. And a lot of it wasn't his problem. But the performances on the pitch and the fact that the players weren't playing for him and the disconnect with the supporters, certainly all bar the latter of those, is on him. The fact of conceding such poor goals consistently, making those defensive mistakes, like yesterday with that dreadful own goal by Michael Keane, that is on him. And the disconnect with the supporters is partly down to him because he just doesn't seem bothered, and he's a victim of his own arrogance, and that's been the biggest problem. If you talk to Evertonians and say, do you know what, fellas, you're right, this hasn't been good enough, we need to do this, we need to da-da-da-da-da, and when he tried to say those things that Sam Allardyce never said, it just didn't sound sincere, because because we've watched him for such a long time, that actually he believes that what he does is absolutely right, even when it's wrong. And it has been proved beyond all doubt in the last 3 months that what he's been doing has been wrong, because 1 win from 13 matches tells you all you need to know, and you cannot just put that down to, well, we had Dominic Calvert-Lewin injured for 3 months. Yeah, that's a factor, but it's not the be all and end all. That does not necessarily mean no team is reliant on one player. There's 10 others on that pitch as well. They have to put shifts in. The manager, the coaches have to put shifts in as well, and just he's singularly not done that. And I'm sure there'll be a huge amount of recrimination over the course of the next few days. There'll be a huge amount written and spoken and said, and anybody that says, well, it's because he's formerly Liverpool manager, is completely missing the point, and I would ignore them. And I know that a lot of them will probably be on Sky, but they'll say that, and therefore I'll tell them now, they're idiots, because that's not the problem. Talk to any Evertonian with any scintilla of sense who's been watching Everton over the last few months, over the last few years, and they will tell you where the fault lines lie. Eloquently, most of them, and sensibly and passionately as well. Because Evertonians never lose their passion for the football club. We will be there on Saturday and we will back the players to the hilt, because we always do. Oh, I think that's the longest one we've ever done. There was me going to try and make it short, but I haven't. But a lot going on. And I haven't even talked about the game really yesterday, but it's almost academic now, isn't it? Given that what's happened in the 24 hours since. So until next time, you can get in touch at NMTBpod on Twitter, nmtbpod@gmail.com, via the email. You can leave a voice note via the description in the podcast. And this has been a top content production. Until next time, let's keep the faith. On to Villa on Saturday. Come on, you Blues.